indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Colesino,
Present.
Fletcher,
Here.
Laschewski, here. Raiders,
Here.
Feldhauser,
Here.
Torres,
Here.
Hernandez.
Here.
A quorum is established.
Okay, I do have one amendment to tonight's agenda. I would like to pull the park board appointment for now. Do we have any other amendments to tonight's agenda? All those in favor of revising the amended agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, first thing on the menu tonight is a commendation for Officer Jeff Johnson. Mr. Johnson apprehended some creep who was robbing cars. Thing over forward. I tell my wife all the time, lock the car, lock the car. I come home and still unlock
I'm going to read your accommodation. The Yorkville Police Department would like to recognize Officer Jeffrey Johnson for his performance above and beyond call of duty during the apprehension of a burglary suspect. Officer Johnson, knowing that the city had been experiencing vehicle burglaries, conducted an area check and observed the suspect entering a vehicle illegally. Officer Johnson's quick actions led to the apprehension of the suspect and the solving of several additional vehicle burglaries. The suspect was subsequently charged with a felony. Thank you, Jeff.
As I understand it, they, when they rob the cars, I mean, they shut the doors and dome light isn't on, they go around with a little flashlight, and you see a flashlight?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, good job spotting it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a public hearing, so I'll entertain a motion to go into public hearing for the third amendment to that certain annexation agreement, Prestwick of Yorkville subdivision dated April 26, 2005, as amended October 8, 2013, and May 27, 2014, by and among Yorkville Farms Development LLC, owner-developer, an Illinois Limited Liability Corporation, and the United City of Yorkville, Kendall County, Illinois, for the purpose of amending the requirements for the construction of an access roadway from the Yorkville Christian School site to Ashley Road.
So moved.
We need a vote? Okay. So we are in public hearing. Are there anyone from the public would like to comment on this? Going once? Anyone from the council have anything? I know Bart wanted to update us on something, right?
Yeah, so there was a discussion at the EDC involving the deadline for completion of the Ashley Road intersection improvements. And so what's reflected in the packet is a start date of by the 75th building permit in the subdivision or a 7-year period start date for the actual completion of the roadway. I've heard from a couple of council members that the intent of the discussion, and after listening to the discussion, does lead me to believe that that was spoken at the meeting, that the metric for those two deadlines is actually the completion of the roadway improvements. So I think the intent is for the city council packet in 2 weeks from now, when it's up for a vote, that it will be amended such that the Ashley Road and Route 126 intersection improvements would be need to be completed by the 75th building permit or the
Seventh year.
the seven year from the approval of the annexation agreement amendment, rather than the start of those improvements.
Okay, anyone else? Comments or questions? Yes.
I think as, I was chatting with Alderman Blissimo here, the 75th permit doesn't necessarily serve a purpose once you factor in the amount of time it's going to take them to do engineering, go through the IDOT process and actually do the construction. So if you put the permits on there, they're going to be, if everything goes well, they could be hamstrung. So I think just the one condition of having it completed at 7 years is sufficient. That's my thought on that one there, as I was having conversations.
Anyone else? Yeah, if you'd like to say something, feel free.
Good evening, my name is Patty Bernhard, and I'm an attorney representing Michelle and Don Cleaver, who are the owners and the petitioners. And when we met with EDC, and we do appreciate all the help that we got from staff and from the members of EDC to assist us. We have a number of people here that can answer questions if anybody else has any questions. We have the traffic engineer here, we have our engineer here, all of the school board members, we have a number of parents of students from the school here, and then also some of the neighbors also are here in support of this project. What we wanted to do was to make sure that we did deal with the 7 years versus the 75th certificate of occupancy. We have a contract right now on the property, and if we limit issuing certificates of occupancy to 75 permits, if the subdivision takes off, which is what we hope will happen, what might happen is if in 3 years they have 75 lots sold and certificates of occupancy issued, that would have to stop until such point as we get the road in. So what we would like to really do is just go with the 7 years and not have a certificate of occupancy permit associated with it, because that will cause problems with our builder that we have a contract with right now. If that is limited and they can't get certificates of occupancy and they know that that's going to happen right up front, it's going to be difficult to move forward with that contract. And without that contract, it's very difficult to have the money to do the roadway improvements that we need to do. So what we are asking is that we take out the 75 permit occupancy restriction and just have it be that it will have to be completed in 7 years, and we will provide a bond in order to make sure that that does happen.
I have a quick question. So to be completed in 7 years, when would you have to start with permitting and construction?
Approximately, I would say 4 years, 4 to 5 years at minimum, because it's going to take a long time to get through the IDOT process, but we do have to work with IDOT in order to make this happen. The last roadway improvements for Penman did take a long time to get those through. So by the time you get the engineering plans completed and approved by IDOT, and then you'll actually do the construction, it would probably be just started before 5th year, and definitely so.
Okay, well, I know I'm in agreement with Chris. I think 7 years is fine. I mean, the 75 permits could hamstring a little bit. Yes?
So I just want clarification. So while we're waiting 7 years, or for these houses, traffic is from a school that's going to be growing in population, is going to be driving through a neighborhood where houses are being built. So you're going to have construction traffic, construction on the street, and you're going to have families and teenagers driving through and not going immediately to Ashley Road to exit the building, or the facility.
Yes, the revised land use plan that is currently in front of you and is being reviewed by the PZC tomorrow differs from the land use plan in 2013 in that the primary point or the secondary point of access doesn't hit the ring road in the subdivision currently. It goes west to a no-load roadway and then to Penman, which is another no-load roadway. So it is in the interior of the subdivision, but there are no homes in front on the service drive or two roadways that lead to Route 126.
Thank you.
There really are on Penman as you enter, there are berms and backs of houses, and then when you get on to Prestwick Road, there are just a couple of houses that would include the sides of those houses. They would not be driving through the subdivision where driveways are. The subdivision is in front of the school, so they literally will come in Penman and go straight out to Prestwick and not be driving in the subdivision.
And what's the current enrollment?
Currently, there are approximately 45 students.
45.
And there are 4 houses throughout this subdivision.
Anyone else? Okay, if there's any other public comment before we close public hearing? Okay, if not, we'll close public hearing, and do you need any direction, or it's going to planning commission tomorrow?
The Plan Commission agenda item is for final plat only, so it does not go over the annexation agreement at all. So my initial statement was that the annexation agreement would be amended such that the 75th occupancy permit and the 7-year deadlines were both tied to completion of the improvements. Because that was my interpretation now after re-listening to the EDC meeting. So the proposal from Alderman Funkhauser and then the petitioner, and then echoed by the mayor, to scrap the 75th occupancy permit. I need more direction on that end of it.
How does everyone else feel? I mean, you want to take a straw poll, see if you want to drop to 75 and stick with 7 years, or stick with 75 and 7? Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, obviously I was pretty vocal at the meeting. I think that in hindsight now, speaking with Mr. Philipchuk and talking to Alderman Funkhauser, I mean, if the subdivision, we don't want to get ourselves in a position where we tie our hands. If the subdivision does take off, let's say within 2 years they hit 75 permits. Now we've put ourselves in a pigeonhole, because even if they wanted to do Ashley Road, with Illinois, it's a year for engineering, a year for permitting, and a year for construction. So I also don't want to hamper the development of the subdivision. I would be happy with the agreement if it guarantees that the Ashley Road is completed in 7 years. That's what I want. In 2025, I want to drive down the road and make a left onto Ashley in my turn lane. That's what I want. Period. I hope that you have 75 permits in 2 years. Great. Because I want that subdivision filled. But I want that road done by 2025. That's all I want. I just want to make that very clear on the record, so in the future, when I'm clearly not going to be here, what that grumpy old alderman used to say is on the record. So frankly, I agree. The permit thing is almost, it doesn't really hold any water. I just want it done by 2025. I don't care about permits. I don't care about anything. I just want it done by 2025. That's all I want.
Alderman Coe?
I think what we pretty much settled on in the meeting, and that's why I mentioned to Bart today when I talked to him earlier about it.
Right, and in hindsight, I didn't think about that variable. If the subdivision does take off and they reach 75 permits much faster than I anticipated it will, then the subdivision comes to a grinding halt because of the state of Illinois. Because now we're waiting for permitting, we're waiting for engineering, and we're waiting for construction. And that's not really the developer's fault, that they sold the houses too fast. I don't want to discourage the fast sale of houses. I want to encourage the fast sale of houses. So as long as they agree that it is done by 2025, I'm fine with it.
Everyone else okay with that? Yes, sir.
No. I went back and you have to understand that I'm not a professional chair sitter. So I went back through the meetings that we had in 2013, and they were all of my decision-making process was focused on Ashley. I was like, all right, well, just don't go through the neighborhood, have your dedicated access. And that was my entire decision-making process. And I actually called Carlo and said, dude, we had a decision, and it was based on one thing, and now that one thing isn't even there anymore. It's 7 years down the road. The trigger point was the school being built and the intersection being completed. So now that that's not the thing, I don't care how many houses or how many years, that was the trigger point. So from my perspective, we had an agreement. Me being relatively new to the scene, I didn't want to tick anybody off, but at the same time, well, no, if you're gonna have a school, and it's a private school, and you're bringing in all these people from out of the area who don't know the fact that 126 is relatively crazy, and there's nothing we can do about it financially because we don't own the roadway. We should look out for the fact that we're letting a business open in an area that doesn't have a dedicated roadway just for the school. So while I commend the fact that it's huge, I mean, I drove by it yesterday, it's ginormous, I get it. But that's all the more reason, in my opinion, to have a dedicated roadway that is just for the school. And yes, you'd have some coming from the other way. But see, I'm lucky in my neighborhood, I have 2 ways to get out. I can go towards Funkhauser's neighborhood, or I can go in the back down Beecher. I have 2 ways to get out. If these people are all funneled through one corridor, regardless of whether a home is facing it or not, those four houses, number one, are going to have the negative impact of traffic flowing through their neighborhood that they didn't sign up for. Number two, going left onto 126. So getting out of whatever Prestwick or Ashley, going left out of there is going to be a challenge. My kids aren't middle school yet, but I've attempted to turn left out of Braintree at about 3:55, and it was impossible. The whole place is a complete bottleneck. Thankfully, bottlenecks do help slow traffic down, but I don't know about high school traffic. Thankfully, I don't live as close to YHS as I could have been, so I don't know how that would impact it, but the idea that 45 students right now say that maybe 40% of them are upperclassmen and they have cars. So that's not a large amount, but if you're going to go to 300 students, we got 120 cars minimum that are owned and driven by students, not to mention buses and employees. So we've gone through all of the schematics. They had a traffic study done. I understand all of that. It doesn't change the fact that my decision was based on one thing, and now that one thing is gone. So we can make any discussion that you want. It doesn't change the fact that, like I said, that's the reason why I said yes. And like, if I'm going to stay, if I'm going to be on the same level with myself as I was 4 or 5 years ago, that was the one thing that I'm like, okay, cool. At least the 4 people who own houses in that neighborhood won't deal with the people that Bristol Bay deal with. If you imagine living in Bristol Bay and having, like myself, I go there 4 times a week for soccer practice. All of those people deal with all of us. So if there's a public school, yeah, it's part of your neighborhood. I get it. If it's a private school, you have a little bit different expectation, and that is to provide a way to service your entire clientele through a roadway that won't interfere not only with construction, but with the people who have chosen to build a house there. It's not those 4 houses' fault that the market took a tank. It's not those people's fault that they bought a house that is worth more than mine in an area off 126, and unfortunately it kind of stalled. They made their investment in Yorkville, so have I. Unfortunately, I wanted a school in my neighborhood, but it was going to be a public school. This is a private school with the potential for 300 students, maybe 150, 120 of which, when it's at full capacity, will be driving, not to mention sports teams and buses. For those 4 households in Prestwick, I only know one of them by name, but of those 4 households, I'm sorry, you got to go with Ashley. For me, it was Ashley or nothing, and I'm still Ashley or nothing. So, sorry for the record.
No, that's fine. I mean, those are all good points. I see it. Yes?
I just want to clarify one thing. The school is currently planned for a capacity of 300. That's what's being proposed. I think we talked about that in committee the other night. The original proposal and the traffic count that was done was based off of 850 students, correct? That's a confirmation of yes, that was the original plan back in 2013, that this school was originally 850 student capacity. Now it's been dropped to 300. So when we look at the traffic study did not get amended to drop that number from 850 to 300. So we're still talking about the projection of 850, but the reality is the school's only going to have a capacity of 300. So that's a major change that we did clarify in the committee discussion that was being changed. One thing I do want to point out, the roads that we're talking about going on here, we have 2 roads. I'm trying to get back up to the map here. We have Prestwick Lane, which is a boulevard road, means it has an island in the middle, and then there are 3 houses that are going to side load to it, and then Penman is unloaded. If you go to the same standard that the middle school has on Prairie Crossing Drive, it's a boulevarded road, and up to the school, the homes are side loaded. Once you get past the school, then they front load. So the standard is actually identical to the middle school. So I can't say that I would judge this being different since it's a private school compared to a public school. Both of them are schools. They both have traffic. They're both in neighborhoods. Schools belong in neighborhoods. They're good for neighborhoods. So to say that this is different, that you should have a different expectation, I was a proponent of saying, hey, when Ashley Road gets built, you need to turn in your entrance and have your entrance off of Ashley. This is a secondary or you close it, but in the interim, you use Prestwick to Penman, but when you build Ashley, your entrance goes to the other side. But in the interim, there's no difference bringing your traffic in here as compared to over on the other side. This school is going in before the residences, basically. I mean, there are 4 houses out there. I get it. They don't want the traffic going through their neighborhood. They didn't foresee that when they bought and built their homes out here. So I get it that these 4 homes don't want that, but the person who owns this property, they have the right. They have the majority right. We're trying to put a trigger in place here that says we're going to get this road built that we wanted, that we originally had the developer commit to. That's the crux of the issue, is getting the road built the way that it's supposed to be built per our agreement. They already have an obligation to build Penman Road improvements, so they're going to do that. But to penalize them and say they have to have a separate road, dedicated road that's not accessing into the neighborhood, I don't agree with that. I think that using Prestwick and Penman, it's the same standard as what you have for the middle school, and the middle school is a much higher capacity. I'm trying to wrap my arms around the idea that this is a different standard just because it's a private school.
No, that's one of 11 reasons why I'm like,
And I
our
get
trigger
that.
point was 4 years and 4 months ago.
It was.
And that's like, I'm sorry that this is the way that it worked out. I understand that, developments have ups and downs. But for me, and this is not anybody else who is here or who was here, for me, this was the reason why I'm like, all right, cool. I get it. And I'm not going to change that opinion because it's not convenient. I'm not going to change that opinion because those 4 houses are just 4 houses. No, I keep on looking at it like this. If that was me and I was one of those 4 houses, your quality of life, whether it goes up or goes down, is I can't really make the call, but I'm just thinking if I'm one of 4 houses, and then instead of homes being built, there's a school being built, and now you have the idea of, do people want to move into a neighborhood where there is a Christian high school being built? A private Christian high school? I don't know whether that's a selling point or not a selling point, but from my perspective, there's one issue here, and the trigger point that we're now discussing, we already discussed, and it was 4 years and 4 months ago. That's just how I think. I'm only one of 8. But that's my opinion. I'm going to rely on the facts that I made the decision with 4 years and 4 months ago right now. That's how I feel.
And I'm right there with you. We made an agreement. We had an agreement in place that said this is going to happen. Whispering Meadows, they had an agreement with the developer saying that your roads were going to get built. They didn't.
Exactly.
So we stepped in and we did it. Things change. We have to come to that reality that things do change. That's why they're here before us. They haven't built a single home since we had that.
We keep on having these conversations about having developers meet a standard. And I will be the first to admit that Whispering Meadows is the redheaded stepchild that was forgotten by not only the lawyers that were fighting us, they basically just, continuance, while I'm paying taxes. This is the same issue on the other foot. We're trying to hold developers, whoever they may be, whatever they may be building, to a standard. So rather than having something pop up and we surprise them with something, no. We talk about it at the beginning. 4 years, 4 months ago, they said, all right, we're going to do a dedicated roadway on Ashley. Hell yeah, for me, that's awesome, because that means that all of the school traffic for large events. I went to a Catholic school. I think you guys remember, John Anthony was over there. I'm like, well, actually, I'm a product of the Catholic school. I get it. But we still throw parties at Catholic schools. We still have events. With only 45 students, I believe they would have more attendance than something at the middle school. Because at the middle school, there's 8,000 kids, and they have 47 doors. This is one place with one gym. That means that grandma, grandpa, uncle, and everybody around here can get there. But they have to drive through a neighborhood. Yes, it's the backs of people's houses. Unfortunately, I wanted to stand up for those 4 houses because I know what it feels like to have, 140 homes sitting there with 70 empty lots. And we can't do anything. We can't make the freaking roads. Thankfully, we have people that work for the city that understand that the human element cannot be changed. We need to have potholes filled. We need to be able to not have the roadway hit our stop signs when they're plowing the roads. We need all of these things. That's the human element. This is something that we had plans for. We planned for every contingency in this. Okay, well, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this, and then you can build this. Cool, they did all that stuff. Now, 4 years and 4 months down the road, now things have changed, and I get it. I'm not saying that I don't understand why things have changed. I haven't changed. I'm only one of 8, but I have not changed my opinion. That's the only reason why I was like, and I'll say it again, as uncouth as might be, hell yeah, build your school, that sounds awesome. I'm all for it, Ashley.
Okay, Jackie.
I'm reading this, so is the school being downsized? It will never have 850 students? I get that it's building in phases, but it'll never have 850 students? Or when it's all phased out, is at its capacity?
We talked about this a little bit at EDC in that there are scenarios that we do not restrict enrollment, and they could come to us for a building permit to expand the school without city council approval, as long as it meets certain, site plans. So there's nothing right now.
So somewhere in the 7 years, we're waiting for this road to be done.
Yep.
We could have 850 students there. It's probable.
I think if they have 850 students, they'll build the road.
I mean, I'm agreeing with Joel, because I'm on board with him. That's why that was one of the conditions, like he said. So I don't want to field the calls from people because, oh gosh, I got all this traffic in here. I just think it could be potentially a bad situation. That, I agree with him. That's when it was brought to us, there were changes all along. I'm great. That's a great thing. Your school's a great thing. We need more. I work at a school. I love schools. Go ahead. But that was part of the deal, was that this would go on to Ashley. So I'm with you. That was one of the reasons I supported it. So.
Okay, is anyone else in opposition to taking out the 75 permits?
I'm not going to try and speak more than Joel.
Just say I'm with him.
Other than to say, for all the same reasons that Joel has put forth, my feeling is that road has to be there with the school. We need that connection with Ashley. And I'm taking that from a facility planner's point of view, that it just makes sense. And I think that to not have that access, whether there's 10 houses or 75 houses, within a year you're going to have umpteen requests for speed bumps, lower the speed limit, which we get every day. And I think we should nip it right now at the beginning and not have to deal with it later.
I count 5-3. Anyone else opposed?
I have 4-3.
Joe, what do you think?
I'm with them.
So that's 4-4. Are the 4 solid on their yeses?
Can I ask?
Yes.
Okay. One question. This came up in the committee, and I just want to have an absolute clarification. Penman or Ashley for a stoplight? Which one will have the stoplight, according to IDOT?
Sorry, Chris.
Penman or Ashley? Which intersection will have a
The
stoplight?
initial traffic study was
Penman.
Always
So
Penn.
Penman will have
Penn will be the
a,
major collector.
in the traffic study, Penman is a controlled intersection.
But it wasn't
I just want to see if that's correct or not.
It wasn't contingent on custom.
Wasn't contingent. That's IDOT.
It was other subdivisions surrounding that.
In order to trigger that,
Correct.
but in terms of the future ultimate, Ashley's not going to have a light. It's going to be a Penman ultimately, if development happens. If Prestwick or Ashley Point builds out in its entirety, that does not trigger a light. It has to be with additional development. Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Can I ask you a question? What is then the improvements on Ashley? A turn lane on 126?
Right, there would be chain
Okay, now, I go up and down 126 once a week. You come to County Line Road, there's no turn lane. There's been accidents there. This is all I'm seeing. I go there, you got that dip in the road by Ashley, and there's no turn lane. To me, it's not even a matter of a light. The turn lane, just is a benefit right there. So, there just has to be something there because it's getting increasingly, 126 is getting more, and I just drive it once a week. There's people who drive it every day going to work. I wouldn't even want to do that. So to me, it's not the matter of even the light. It's that turn lane to me, is very important for people that are going to go in and out of there. To get the traffic off of 126
Right.
before somebody gets rear-ended nice to have a light there for the people coming down Ashley and out.
That whole intersection, if there's signage, a turn lane, in my opinion, the roadway will slow down. And that's like right after it starts to get freaky. Like if you're going east, it's creepy. A good friend of mine's husband passed away on that road not too far to the east. Anything on 126, I've automatically got my eyes wide open. But this brings up the other conversation. I've been talking to Bart, my friends up in Bristol Bay, they want to get another exit out of the neighborhood. And the easiest way is the right in, right out off of Funkhauser, is it Bristol Bay Boulevard? Bristol Bay, what's it called? It's Bristol Bay Street, whatever it is. They want that to hit 47, and the cost of a right in, right out is $200,000. Well, in a couple years, 47 will be widened. So that would be a waste of $250,000 to build that right in, right out. I understand that with this too, because maybe in 20 years, 126 will be fixed, and there will be some form of speed mitigation on that road besides, county and state cops. This is one where you're always going to have that. Well, once we get these houses, we'll get the roadway. But then you're going to have that lag between the houses being done and the roadway being built. Then you're going to have the lag between the school and the houses being built. Now it's the school and the roadway being built. I understand it's never going to be a perfect situation. But for all of the reasons that we already illustrated, that's a safety precaution. And that's not on the back of my mind. That's at the forefront of my mind. So it's safety. It's the fact that 126 has been known to kill. I am personally affected by that. That makes me angry. And the idea of throwing high school students in this particular situation, I drove like a dork for 15 years. I haven't had a ticket in Yorkville in 10. He takes the pen out.
How long you been out here?
Actually, 5 years. Yeah, I haven't got pulled over. I have been pulled over in Yorkville. That was kind of But the idea is to focus on what's important and then back your way up, and I get it. But I don't think that 126 is going to be improved by IDOT in this area before this school is going to get built.
What are you looking at?
I think I have my direction as far as the 75th permit requirement goes. So, so that's 5 to 4. I have Galinsky, Funkhauser, Colosimo, Koch, and Hernandez is saying it is okay to remove the 75th permit requirement so that it will simply read 7 years from approval of the agreement, a completed roadway that you can drive on. Okay, so we're clear. And then no on that individual item was Frieders, Milszewski, Tarulis, Plocher.
Correct.
So it will be drafted so that there's only a 7-year time frame in that regard. The threshold for the annexation agreement approval, just so you're aware, is a supermajority, 6 out of 9 votes. So if it wants to be amended in the meeting, next meeting, as it's drafted, that would just be a floor discussion on the different provisions in there, but it will be drafted as a 7-year timeline only.
No.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Mayor.
Yes.
So we're talking about the improvements on Ashley versus Penman access. Ashley obviously comes with road improvements, turn lane, channelization. Penman, you have a permit as a petitioner to make the improvements. What are those improvements on Penman and 126?
Those would be exactly what's being requested. Down right turn lane and west bound.
Okay, and our engineer is confirming that.
That's correct.
So immediately, they have a permit to do roadway improvements on Penman for the access into the development. So they're, in the interim, yes, they have, they're going to have a better access. I don't actually know which intersection has better lines of sight and visibility. That's not my, what's that? So our engineer is telling us that Penman has better access, and we're going to have an immediate improvement. How long till that improvement's completed, do we think? Being as they have a permit?
My understanding is planning starting in April, a couple weeks here, and then I'll but it's
Okay, so when we talk about the traffic, the access, would I prefer to have everything going through Ashley the way that we've planned it? Yes, that's my preference. Right now, we're talking about coming off of Penman, roadway improvements going in, probably concurrently with the school because the school's not going to be open till fall. I just want to point that out.
Mr.
You know, I just want to point out, obviously, you know, this being in my ward, we want to stimulate the development of the subdivision, Pepper, or whatever it's called. It's been 4 houses since I've been here. I mean, we all know that. We drive up and down. And, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Joel, things change. Yep, you're right. That sucks. I remember an alderman who told you he was not going to vote to use taxpayer money to fix roads that weren't owned by the city. And last week, I voted to fix your roads. Things change. Things are changing here. We got to get the subdivision started. We got to get the subdivisions built. They have 45 students right now, and there's 4 houses in the subdivision. There's not going to be a traffic problem. We got to get the subdivision going, and eventually, we will get Ashley done. Right now, we are going to have a left in and a turn lane going in both directions on Penman, which is exactly what we want on Ashley. And eventually, we do want to shift it to Ashley. That is the goal. But for now, we already have a permit, and we already have it ready to go with the turn lanes on Penman. So if you want to talk about safety, in the short term, the safe entrance is Penman. In the long term, the best entrance would be Ashley. And that's what we're setting the dominoes up for. That's all I'm asking you to consider.
But then this, like, the way that, and believe me, I respect the crap out of you. This is a decision of staging. We talked about staging the development.
Right.
If this was part of your plan, this is what should have been submitted to the city. We're gonna start here and we're gonna go there. That's not what we talked about. We talked about, we're building this, we're gonna do these. Like, I'm not trying to be obstinate, I'm not trying to be annoying, I'm just saying, well, this is what we said we were gonna do. So, like, I understand you can scale the size of a property. You can do all of these things. We're talking about safety and having an exit to a school less than a quarter of a mile away from the exit of another school with 5 times the kids. I don't want to bore you with me keep saying the same thing. It's just the same thing. So we had a agreement. There was a plan. I get things change. Believe me. Like I don't have any hair anymore. I get things change. I have to roll with the punches. This is one where we're talking about the speed of vehicles and the safety of people who not only live in the neighborhood, those 4 houses, but also the people that are going to be coming into that neighborhood from out of the area. So yeah, I don't think the 75 houses really matters.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Good debate. We'll see what happens. All right, next on the agenda, citizen comments on anything that's on the agenda this evening. Anyone like to comment on anything on the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting of March 13th, 2018 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions, corrections? Roll call, please. Or, we don't even need a roll call. All those in favor of approving minutes as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on the mayor's report. Is anyone here for the proclamation for Motorcycle Awareness Week? Okay, then I'm not going to read it. Be safe out there. Watch out for motorcycles. It's in the packet if you'd like to read it.
You were the question.
Next,
No.
no, we tabled that.
Aren't you guys here for the TIF?
I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance deleting the requirement for a license fee deposit for liquor license applications and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute. Nope, that's the second one, isn't it?
Yep.
Let's back up. A motion to approve an ordinance amending the regulations for Class C A, catering license and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? Yes.
I've gone back and forth on this one, and this one, my consideration was, can we put an overlay district on this, basically the same as what the downtown liquor license is? So before I motion to amend it to add the language, I just want to throw that out there, that's my thought, is to just put that criteria there, that it is limited to the downtown, same as our license we have for that. Just throw that out there before I motion.
Yeah, I had never thought about that, because then when you read how it can kind of snowball, awesome observation, I'm with you.
I just make a motion to amend it to include language to put a provision that it's limited to the downtown.
Second.
Comments or questions on the motion to amend? Okay, roll call on the motion to amend.
Hernandez. Hope,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Reuters.
Aye.
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 Rulis,
Aye.
Lexino,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Krzyzewski.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, any comments, questions on the original motion, amended motion? If not, we'll roll call vote on the amended motion.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Hope,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Reuters,
Aye.
Rulis,
Aye.
Lexino,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Krzyzewski.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, now I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance deleting the requirement for a license fee deposit for liquor license applications and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Hope,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Reuters,
Aye.
Rulis,
Aye.
Lexino,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Krzyzewski,
Aye.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Alderman Cope for EDC report.
Got three motions. A motion to approve, number one is a motion to approve an ordinance approving the downtown redevelopment project area number 2 redevelopment plan and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
Second.
Comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Reuters,
Aye.
Rulis,
Aye.
Lexino,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Krzyzewski,
Abstain.
Hernandez. Hope,
Aye. Number 2, a motion to approve an ordinance designating the proposed downtown redevelopment project area number 2 pursuant to the Tax Increment Allocation Redevelopment Act and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
Comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Reuters,
Aye.
Rulis,
Aye.
Lexino,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Krzyzewski,
Abstain.
Hernandez. Hope,
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Number 3, a motion to approve an ordinance adopting tax increment allocation financing for the downtown redevelopment project area number 2 and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved. Or second.
Comments, questions?
Who so moved, or seconded?
Ken and myself.
Roll call, please.
Rulis,
Aye.
Lexino,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Krzyzewski,
Abstain.
Hernandez. Hope,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Reuters.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on, we have a couple things from Park Board. I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of playground equipment for Purcell Park from Xenon Company in an amount not to exceed $40,000.
So moved.
Comments, questions? Roll call.
Losino.
Aye.
Lefferts.
Next.
Nate.
Nate?
Yoshiewski.
Aye.
Hernandez. Hook.
Aye.
Butcher.
Aye.
Reuters.
Yay.
Rulis.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of playground equipment for Windette Ridge Park from Play Illinois LLC, Burke, in the amount not to exceed $45,362.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Lefferts.
Aye.
Yoshiewski.
Aye.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Hook.
Aye.
Butcher.
Aye.
Reuters.
Aye.
Rulis.
Aye.
Losino.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Does the city clerk have a report? Any community and liaison reports? Any staff reports?
No reports?
Okay, I do have an ordinance for the budget. So I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance approving the 2018-19 fiscal budget, incorporating budget adjustments 1 through 9, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? I think Bart has a quick update.
Yeah, our 11:59 p.m. Update. Some good news and bad news. One is that, just as full disclosure, for the past 2 weeks, we've been repairing parts of the Beecher Center HVAC system in the large room. There are 2 units within there. The heat exchanger on one of them we think might be finally shot. So the room is not going lower than 60, but we are still getting complaints between 60 to 65 in there. We have a second opinion coming out looking for whether the heat exchanger can be replaced as a temporary basis. And if not, then we'll have to replace everything. And we will be looking at temporary space heating components in the building if necessary. So the good news is that the air still works and the weather.
Oh, wait, that's the good news?
No, not all. Not all.
I thought that was the bad
I was
news.
about to swallow.
That's the good news on the bad news. That it is getting warmer, and so we don't expect the building to suffer any freezing issues because there's still a generator that works in there. And then the second, which is the good news, our January consumer sales report came out yesterday, and we've been lagging at like 0.8% of growth. The numbers beat the budget estimate by like $20,000, which is one of the highest margins of difference between the model that we've had in like a couple years. That month single-handedly has recalibrated our projection for fiscal year 18 to be 1.5%, which is exactly what we budgeted going forward. So there's still 2 months that are relatively low usually. January is one of them that's very low usually. That make up our fiscal year 18 figures. So as long as those come in line with what our projections showed, we would expect to end fiscal year 18 at about 1.5% growth. So interesting, I don't know if there was a business that filed late, or if everybody got their gift cards and then bought more stuff at the shop on January. We won't know for 5 to 6 months, unfortunately, to see the business level sales data to be able to tie that back. But I thought that was interesting. And then the second is our IMRF contribution rate. It's actually lower than we had budgeted. And so we're paying as an employer about 9% and change to the pension system. And we had budgeted for 10+%. So that's a savings annually of about $21,000 too. So those came in, I think, late Friday. So whatever that's worth.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate the memo update that you put in the, our concerns last time. And I think one of the things about, and I'm going to vote for the budget, but one of the things we have to think about is, in past years when things were going well, we would amend the budget and add things and go along as the fiscal year went. It's not like we pass it and we forget it. This year, we're going to keep our eye on it to maybe do the opposite. If things are not going as projected, to pass some budget amendments to pull some of this stuff out of there. Because I just want to make sure that we all have that understanding. And we're passing this budget with some reading of some tea leaves. And if things are not coming to fruition, that there might be some amendments along the way to start pulling back on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I will support the budget, mainly because I know that if we are in deficit, we do have fund balance, it's like a savings account, to me, is how I think of it. So I know that, but going forward, I understand the school district had the ability to, because they didn't know what their state funding was going to be like until just recently, and their software allows them to pull a budget and then a worst case budget, kind of similar, parallel to each other. So if they didn't get some revenues that they, from the state, they were able to say, this is what you'd have to do because they balanced their budget. Sometimes I think that would be helpful to see something like that, like instead of running a deficit, to know what the choices are, because we just see it at the end, and to know, okay, I might want to pull this off or something to get some more perspective. But that's just something, and that could be done in the next 24.
Yeah, in the past, we've done that. We've presented some either-or options. We've suggested cuts, revenue increases for projects. And in lean years, that was a pretty big exercise. So, depending on our audit outcomes, that may be something that's a good portion of next year's budget proposal.
Anyone else? All right, roll call, please.
Krasinski,
Aye.
Hernandez,
Aye.
Feltes,
Aye.
Wiltshire,
Aye.
Reuters,
Aye.
Torres,
Aye.
Lucido,
Aye.
Longcastler.
Aye.
Any additional business? Do we have an executive session?
We do for litigation.
I'll entertain a motion to go into a very, very short executive session.
I like that.
Not with us.
It will be short. Good news.
Roll call.
Torres,
Aye.
Krasinski,
Aye.
Lucido,
Aye.
Wiltshire,
Aye.
Hernandez, Feltes,
Aye.